Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. The topic of discussion for today's lecture is histology of the ear. You have already covered the gross anatomy and development of the ear in previous lectures. So moving on to the histology of ear. So basically ear has been divided into three important parts. Number one, that is the external ear that collects the sound waves. Number two is the middle ear, which transforms the sound waves into the mechanical waves, and is the internal ear, which transformed that mechanical sound waves into the electrical stimulus. So in the gross anatomy, you have already seen that the ear has three parts. Number one, that is the external ear, which is starting from the pinna or the auricle of the ear, and then this is its external auditory meatus till the tympanic membrane. That portion is the external ear. Then this portion that is having the ear ossicles, that is the middle ear. You can see that communication of the middle ear to the pharynx, that is the auditory tube or eustachian tube. And next to that, internally, this one, that portion is known as internal ear. So here you can see these three different parts of the ear. So first of all, starting with the external ear, in which you have seen pinna, then this external auditory meatus. So histologically, the auricle, which is also known as pinna of the ear, that is composed of thin skin. And you can see this histological slide of the thin skin having these hair follicles. And along with that hair follicles are the sebaceous glands and the sweat glands, which you can see these tubular structures. These are representing the sweat glands. So the skin that is very tightly adheres to underlying elastic cartilage, as it is also composed of the irregular plates of the elastic cartilages that is covered by that thin skin. So not only that is having the elastic cartilage and the structure of the skin, there is a lot of adipose tissue which is especially present along the posteromedial border of the ear, and it is present inside the ear lobule. So this is. So when you see the histological structure of the external acoustic meatus, as you have seen that this is composed of two important parts. The outer 1/3 is the cartilaginous part, having the elastic cartilage in its structure, which is continuous with the cartilage of the pinna of the ear, and the internal 2/3 portion is bony part. And whole of these two areas are going to have the skin over it, which is a thin skin having that stout hair follicles. These are very stiff and stout hair in the external acoustic meatus. There are no sweat glands, you can see, but the very important glands which are associated in the external acoustic meatus are the ceruminous glands. These ceruminous glands, they are responsible to form the cerumen or wax, ear wax, that is a yellowish waxy material. It is also having the combination of that wax plus the keratinocytes which are shed from the epidermis. So here you can see these are the ceruminous glands. These are specialized form of the glands which are apocrine variety of the sweat glands present in the external acoustic meatus. These ceruminous glands are also present in the cartilaginous part as well as in the bony part of the external acoustic meatus. The bony portion, the skin is very tightly adheres to the periosteum, and in that bony portion the hair follicles are only present along the roof of the bony part of external auditory meatus. So you must remember very important tubular coiled variety glands in the external auditory meatus, which are the modified apocrine sweat glands in. So this is showing you the simple tubular coiled variety ceruminous glands which are present in the external acoustic meatus and responsible to produce ear wax or the cerumen. So you can see here the structure of simple tubular and coiled variety, these ceruminous glands which are the apocrine glands in. This is the tympanic membrane, and you have seen that this is having two parts, the outer one which is towards the external ear and the inner one which is towards the middle ear cavity. So histologically, if you see that tympanic membrane is composed of three important layers. That portion which is towards the external acoustic meatus, that is the cutaneous part. It is having the cutaneous layer that is composed of the thin skin stratified squamous keratinized epithelium with very thin layer of the connective tissue, and this skin along the tympanic membrane is hairless. The middle layer is the fibrous layer having the collagen fibers which are arranged in the laminas, in the superficial laminas which are radially arranged, and the deep laminas are circularly arranged collagen fibers. So the middle layer is fibrous layer, and the one which is towards the tympanic membrane, that part of the tympanic membrane is mucus layer, that is having mucosal component, that is composed of the mucous membrane which consists of single layer of low cuboidal epithelial cells which is resting on a very thin layer of lamina propria. So that mucosal layer of mucous membrane of the tympanic membrane is towards the middle ear cavity. So you must understand that tympanic membrane has three layers: the cutaneous layer, the fibrous middle layer, and the inner mucosal layer. So here you can see the structure of the middle ear cavity, which is also known as tympanic cavity or tympanum, in which you can see this is the tympanic membrane, and here there is the ear ossicles which are composed of the compact bone. These are the incus, malleus and stapes. So here you can see this is the malleus, and this is one which is showing you the incus, and the stapes, you know, that is along that portion of the oval window. So here you can also appreciate two important muscles which are the tensor tympani and stapedius. These two muscles are composed of the skeletal muscle components. These are the skeletal muscle. So this tympanic cavity, which is the middle ear cavity, is also lined by the mucous membrane or the mucus layer, and this is going to communicate anteriorly. Here you can see through this tube like structure which is the auditory tube, and this tube has the epithelium, that is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So through this tube the middle ear cavity has communication with the pharynx. So the lining epithelium of the eustachian tube is pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium with many goblet cells. It just resembles that of the respiratory epithelium. So this is the histological structure in a middle ear cavity, you must remember. So here you have seen the middle ear cavity, that one which is showing you the blue in color. So this middle ear cavity, along with its all the structures that are the malleus, incus and the stapes, which are the compact bones present in the middle ear, and its lining epithelium is the simple squamous epithelium resting on the lamina propria, that is a sort of the mucous membrane lining whole of the surface of this middle ear cavity. Actually this is the area in the petrous part of the temporal bone, And this epithelium over the inner surface of the tympanic membrane here, that changes to the simple cuboidal epithelium. So here along the tympanic membrane, this is the simple cuboidal epithelium, but rest whole in the middle ear it is simple squamous epithelium. And this is the digitory tube, which I have told you having the pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So now you can see these two important communications, the oval window and the round window. Through these, the middle ear is going to communicate into the internal ear. So here in the inner ear, the foot plate of the stapes that is attached to that oval window, and from here the mechanical sound waves are transmitted to the inner ear, where they are transformed into electrical stimulus. And then this is here the round window, which is lined up by the secondary tympanic membrane, and it is very important, which is going to absorb the extra sound waves. So this tympanic membrane absorbs and resolve all the extra sound waves which are not needed. And here you have seen all of the inner structure, which is the internal ear having the bony portion, which is composed of the bone, the coils here in the cochlea, and all the other structures I will explain in the next slides. But actually these all are the bony portion in the petrous part of the temporal bone. And the innermost area, which is having in it the endolymph, that part is the membranous labyrinth. So the inner ear has membranous labyrinth and osseous bony labyrinth. Membranous and bony labyrinth, in between that you have the perilymph, and inside the tubes of the membranous labyrinth is the endolymph. So this whole area is shown. So functionally very important internal ear, that is located in the petrous part of the temporal bone, having the two important parts, the bony and membranous labyrinth. And in the bony labyrinth there is the cavities having the perilymph in the that portion, and this perilymph is very closely resembles to CSF. And the parts which are for the bony labyrinth are the vestibule, semicircular canals, and cochlea, and I will show. So this is showing you the structure of the inner ear, which is having actually these three semicircular canals and the vestibule, that is the part of the bony labyrinth, and is the cochlea. So semicircular canal, the vestibule, that is associated with maintenance of equilibrium, and this one, which is the cochlea, having the cochlear duct in it as a membranous labyrinth, is associated with auditory function. In the bone you are going to have that cochlea, vestibule, and a semicircular canal. But when you see the membranous labyrinth, semicircular canal and cochlea is having the cochlear duct and semicircular ducts, but the vestibule is divided into two portions, the utricle and saccule. And here this is associated with the 8th cranial nerve. Here you can see its ganglion, that portion which is associated with the vestibular portion, and the one associated with cochlea is for the auditory portion. So this is vestibulocochlear nerve for the that is 8th cranial nerve associated with. So here you can see the osseous labyrinth, that is the bony labyrinth, with this cochlea, this vestibule, and semicircular canals. And when the semicircular canals are going to join that vestibule, here is that dilated portion. Internally here are the sensory organ for the balance. Now here this one, that is showing you the oval window where the foot plate of stapes is attached, and this is the area of the round window for the attachment of the tympanic membrane. So this oval window, you can see here that this one, that is the area of the communication to the middle ear cavity, where this one. So here in this picture I would like to show you that bony labyrinth how it looks like from inside. So this is that outer portion in which you have seen this just like the snail shell, the cochlea, and these turns of the semicircular canal. And you have realized just like there is a central bony modulus around which these turns they are going to be formed, making 2.5 turns. So this is the osseous labyrinth if you see from outside. So what is inside here? You can see that this portion having the canals in which it lodges the membranous semicircular ducts, and this single vestibule, bony vestibule, it has two important membranous parts, the utricle towards the semicircular canal and saccule which is towards that cochlea. And here you have seen that communication of that cochlea to that vestibule here, and the cochlea from inside you can appreciate very well this single turn is divided into two cavities, two parts by this bony shelf-like or wedge-like demarcation, this osseous spiral lamina, which is that shelf and wedge dividing the cochlear canal into an upper part and into this lower part. On this osseous spiral lamina, the membranous tube, which is cochlear duct, that lies, and above that this area is the scala vestibuli, and below that spiral lamina this portion is scala tympani. As you can also see by common sense that this portion has and more towards that secondary tympanic membrane, so this is scala tympani, and this is communicating to the vestibule, so this portion upper one is the scala tympani, and on this spiral lamina there will be the cochlear duct which is known as scala media. That membranous labyrinth is resting on that lamina. So that's how this cochlea has three portions, scala vestibuli and scala tympani below. These are the bony portion having perilymph in it, and membranous labyrinth has scala media over that lamina. This is having endolymph. So you can see here that from inside this whole portion of the osseous labyrinth, you can see the whole. So after that osseous labyrinth, if you see the membranous part, membranous labyrinth, it is composed of interconnected and intercommunicated membranous sacs or tube-like structures located on this bony part. These are filled with endolymph. And so this endolymph is resembling intracellular fluid which is rich in potassium and poor in sodium. So whole of the membranous labyrinth is filled up with the endolymph as compared to the bony portion which has the perilymph. So perilymph is present and surrounding in the bony part, and then it is surrounding actually the endolymph. So when you talk about different parts of the internal ear in its membranous portion, as I have already discussed, in the cochlea there is cochlear duct, or which is known as scala media, having the receptor of hearing known as organ of Corti. The semicircular ducts have semicircular canals, and vestibule has the utricle and saccule. All of these components is associated with the vestibular receptors. In the semicircular ducts are the crusty ampullaris, and utricle and saccule has the maculae, which are associated with the maintenance of balance. So these are the vestibular. The auditory system in internal ear is associated with the cochlea, and when you talk about bony cochlea, it resembles a snail shell. You have seen in the previous pictures that it is just like a snail shell, in which there is the central pillar of a bone. That bony wedge in the center is known as modulus, and around that modulus the rest of the bone makes 2.5 spiral turns. So These just resembles, you can take the example of a screw in which there is a central stem, and around that central stem of the screw the thread is going to form spirals. So just like that, around the modulus the rest of the bones are making almost two-penny labyrinth. There is the membranous labyrinth, which is known as scala media or cochlear duct. So there are, in its cross section, you can appreciate the three fluid filled compartments. Over the spiral osseous lamina, which is the bony wedge, the tube like membranous cochlear duct is present, having endolymph in it. It is also known as scala media. Above the scala media is scala vestibuli, and below that is scala tympani, having the perilymph. So these are the structures present in membranous cochlea. Most important one actually that is associated with hearing, that portion is the scala media. So here that you can appreciate this tube, which is the scala media or cochlear duct. It is having the receptor of hearing, which is organ of Corti, and rest above this is scala vestibuli and scala tympani. And a very important communication towards the apex of that cochlea. Here the cochlear duct, it is going to end up blindly, but the scala media and scala vestibuli, these are communicating through that opening here at its apex. This is helicotrema. So through that helicotrema, the perilymph in the scala vestibuli and scala tympani, they can communicate and they can move across. So this is the communication between these two, scala vestibuli and tympani, over the apex of the cochlea, that is helicotrema, but here the cochlear duct ends blindly. So here you can. So in this osseous labyrinth, if you have the cut section across that, here you can see this is making up this one turn, this is the second turn, and then the half, which is not completed. So these are the 2.5 spiral turns of the cochlea. And now to see inside, there is a cut section across this. So here you can have these three fluid filled compartments of the cochlea at along this turn, then along this turn, one here and here, and this. So you can appreciate across this cut section, it is just resembling this picture. So this is the one cut end showing you these two areas of the cochlea, then this is the other and the one. Here you can appreciate these two above and below the compartments are scala vestibuli and tympani, and this center, in the center, this triangular shaped structure, that is known as the scala media, which is cochlear duct. And this one is the area, the bony wedge, along with that they are making the turn, that is the modulus. And from this modulus, the wedge of the bone, just like a shelf, enters into the cochlea, that is the osseous spiral laminas. So these are the osseous spiral laminas on which the scala media or cochlear ducts, they are going to adjusted. These are present over that osseous spiral lamina. So this is modulus in the center, the bony wedge sending inside that osseous laminas, just like a shelf, and then here this is the scala media, and then dividing it into the scala vestibuli and scala tympani, and these are the area which are going to have now the spiral ganglion of which are the receptors of the hearing. This is again very beautiful picture which is showing you all the compartments of the cochlea, and you can appreciate very easily all the structures which I want to show you. That again I will explain. This is now the triangular scala media and cochlear duct, having in it the endolymph along with that receptor, which is organ of Corti. And this portion, that one is the area of stria vascularis. That is very important here. The epithelium is pseudostratified epithelium, that is pseudostratified columnar epithelium, along with having high vascularity. Underneath there is rich blood vessels are present, and these blood vessels present over this stria vascularis is responsible to produce the endolymph. These are secreted through that stria vascularis and its blood vessels, and these stria vascularis and its epithelium continues over the spiral crest. Here you can see, along with that basilar membrane, as a cuboidal cells. These cuboidal cells here, these are known as the cells of Claudius, and more towards the basilar membrane and organ of Corti, these cells are called cells of Claudius and cells of Böttchers. So these are the actually extension of the epithelium from stria vascularis. Its epithelium is pseudostratified and it extends as cuboidal epithelium as the cells of Claudius, and then more towards the basilar membrane, these are cells of Böttcher. Again here, this is, now you can see how the from the modulus the wedge of the bone extends into the cochlea, forming the spiral lamina, and over that spiral lamina is resting that organ of Corti. The basilar membrane, which is facing towards the scala tympani, is the squamous type of epithelium. You can see very easily, this is the simple squamous epithelium, which is more towards the scala tympani. This picture is showing you the eosine and hematoxylin stained slide, in which you can see the compartments, and as I have already told you, there is the scala media separated from scala vestibuli through the vestibular or Reissner's membrane. This portion is scala tympani, separated through that basilar membrane. These bony portions, you can appreciate the bone here, that bones are the modulus, which is present over in the center, and along that modulus you can see and appreciate all of that turns. And this one is showing you the areas where ganglions, these are the ganglions are present for the vestibulocochlear nerve. And in all the previous pictures, as I have explained you, all the components in the scala media or the cochlear duct, that this is triangular in cross section and having the compartments which is communicating through the helicotrema. Stria vascularis present along the lateral wall of the cochlear duct, highly vascular and pigmented area producing endolymph into the membranous labyrinth. And then auditory receptors are the spiral organ of Corti along the basilar membrane, and they are having the neuroepithelial cells, which are the receptor cells of hearing, along with their supporting cells. So I will explain all of these cells. Now this spiral organ of Corti, which is actually the receptor organ for hearing, it is composed of two types of the cells, the neuroepithelial receptor cells. These neuroepithelial receptor cells are the hair cells because they have stereocilia on their free apical surfaces. So there are two types of the hair cells, the inner hair cell, which are going to form a single row of the cell from the base towards the apex of the cochlea, and the outer hair cells, which are actually 3 to 5 rows towards the apex of the basilar membrane or the cochlea, which I have shown you the triangular structure with apex and base. So more towards the base is the inner hair cell and towards the apex is the 3 to 5 rows of outer hair cells. These hair cells are the neuroepithelial receptor cells having the stereocilia on their apices. So in this picture you can very easily appreciate that these are the 3 rows of the outer hair cells which you can see, and the single row of the cells which are extending here, this is showing you the inner hair cells. So this is the inner hair cells and these are the outer hair cells along with their stereocilia present in the organ of Corti. These hair cells, these are going to their stereocilias, they are embedded in this glycoprotein rich structure. That one you can see, these are the hair cells, these 3 rows appreciating you the outer one, and these were the inner one single row, are going to embedded in the tinctorial membrane, and their contact is actually through the stereocilia of the hair cell, and any movement, any vibration which is perceived by the tinctorial membrane is transmitted through these hair cells to these neuroepithelial cell for further transmission of the hearing towards the brain. Again here the representation of the outer and inner hair cell. This is the inner hair cells. Along with that they are having the inner phalangeal cells which are actually the supporting cells. So the inner and these are the outer hair cells, these are lying into embedded into the tinctorial membrane. So this picture is actually showing you when the tinctorial membrane is removed, and you can see now the structural composition and rows of outer and inner hair cells in the organ of Corti. So this is very interesting picture which I would like to show you to explain actually the outer and inner aspects of the scala media, and here because of that you can very easily understand the location of outer and inner hair cells. So as I have told you that the scala media is a triangular shape structure. At its one border is the vestibular membrane and on its other border is that basilar membrane, and this is the base which is more towards the outer aspect of the bone, that is the area where is the stria vascularis. This is very important area where the epithelium is pseudostratified with very high vascularity underneath. Here is the lots of blood vessels are present, and these rich vascularity along with that pseudostratified epithelium, these are responsible to produce the endolymph into that scala media. So these are endolymph secretory area, that is a stria vascularis on its outer aspect along the base of scala media, and the apex that is more towards the inner side, more towards the modiolus, and you know from the modiolus there is a region of that bony wedge which is that osseous spiral lamina, making that shelf for on which the organ of Corti is resting. So towards that apex area, here you can see this is the limbus which is the spiral limbus. This is indicating the inner aspect of scala media. So more towards that limbus will be the inner hair cells, and in inner cells are present, and more towards moving that stria vascularis will be the outer hair cells and outer supporting cells, these are locating. So from this picture you very well understand, I hope, the spiral limbus which is over the modiolus and making that layer of the connective tissue over that spiral lamina, and towards the base, towards the outer side is that stria vascularis. Why this is known as vascularis? Because this is having rich vascularity. Why this is stria? Having the pseudostratified epithelium, and what is its function? So in this picture it is showing you the detailed structure of the organ of Corti, and I hope you very well understand now the outer and inner aspect. So this is the area more towards this osseous spiral lamina and modiolus, where we have labeled this area the spiral limbus. So towards that, you can appreciate this is the single row of the inner hair cell, and they are very well supported by the inner phalangeal cells, which are making a flask like portion to accommodate the inner hair cell, and its dictorial membrane is towards the stereocilia are embedded in that dictorial membrane, and it is resting and going to be present over the basilar membrane through that inner phalangeal cell. Its basal part, you can see the basal part of the phalangeal cells does not reach the basilar membrane, but actually these are going to accommodated and supported and reached to the basilar membrane through inner phalangeal cells. Then is the pillar cells. These are the inner pillar cell and the outer pinnar cell, which you can see. The bases or the basal portion of these pillar cells are expanded where they have the nuclei. So nuclei are present over the basal expanded portion, which is resting on basement membrane. Then is its very thin, narrow pillar like areas which are going to extend up towards the dictorial membrane, and here the inner pillar cell towards its apical portion is making the concavity into which the convex head like structure of outer pillar cell is fitted. So these are going to be very well fitted and going to accommodate each other towards the apical side. So these are inner and outer pillar cells. Now moving more towards now definitely the stria vascularis. These are the outer hair cells which are making, I have told you, 3 to 5 rows of the cells. Again these are the stereocilia towards the dictorial membrane, and here again the basal portions are supported through the outer phalangeal cells. These are tall columnar cells which are having expanded plate-like and finger-like projections at their apical ends to accommodate and support the outer hair cells. So these are the outer hair cells along with its supporting outer phalangeal cells. So more towards here, these are now the cells of Hansen's, which are the columnar cells. These are making along the outer border and outermost cells of the outer phalangeal cell. The area between this outer phalangeal cell and cell of Hansen's, this is making the outer tunnel, and here in between the inner and outer pillar cell is this tunnel, which is known as the inner tunnel or the tunnel of Corti. These are also very important areas which are going to absorb the extra sound waves. Then these are the cells of Hansen's. These cells which are tall columnar cells, and actually these are just like constituting the border cells. These are along the outer border of the organ of Corti. So these are also labeled as outer border cells and inner border cells. So these tall columnar cells, these are the inner and outer border cells. So moving more towards the stria vascularis, which is actually now these cuboidal like cells. These are the extension of the epithelium of the stria vascularis, which is pseudostratified epithelium, and these extends down as the cells of Claudius and Bocher cells, as I have discussed earlier, So these cells are the cells of Bocher's and Claudius. So I think you are going to be worried here. So there is lots of cells and very difficult names. So don't worry. Go in sequence, starting from here, from the limbus, spiral limbus, which is towards the modulus, towards the inner aspect. If we go in sequence, first of all we have the inner hair cells supported through the inner pharyngeal cells, which are supporting cells of that hair cell. Then is outer and inner pillar cells, and in between these cells is the inner tunnel or tunnel of Corti. Then there is the outer hair cells supported through these outer phalangeal cells. Moving more towards outer border of these outer hair cells is the Hansen cells. These Hansen cells are tall columnar. These are actually making the border of the organ of Corti. These are making border like cells, so you label them inner and outer border cells. These are the tall columnar. When you see these cuboidal cells, these are the cells of Bocher and then cells of Claudius, and these are extension of pseudostratified epithelium of stria vascularis. So these are just the cells which are making up here the organ of Corti, and this is a tictorial membrane which is transmitting the sound vibrations from the middle ear to that organ of Corti for perceiving the sense of hearing. So this is the graphic representation showing you the tictorial membrane and hair cells, and in the next here you can see very easily the very interesting movement of the tictorial membrane, moving the stereocilia along with it, and then by its movement they are stimulating these cells, their basal portions. You can appreciate these afferent fibers, these are emerging out and making the ganglion, which is the spiral ganglion of the cochlear portion of vestibulocochlear nerve, and from this ganglion this nerve is the cochlear nerve, and it unites with the vestibular portion making vestibulocochlear nerve. So again here you can appreciate this is the spiral limbus, and from this limbus that is towards the apex you can appreciate inner hair cells, inner phalangeal cells, pillar cells, outer hair cells and outer phalangeal cells, tictorial membrane, the border cells which are the cells of Hansen, and then Bocher and Claudius cells. And from the basal parts of these neuroepithelial outer and inner hair cells, the nerve fibers, afferent nerve fibers emerges towards the spiral ganglion. These are resting on the basilar membrane, which is, you can appreciate here, that hole is the basilar membrane, and here you can see the cochlear nerve that is. So this is now again representation of outer and inner hair cells and making the afferent nerve fibers and ending. Actually this is now the picture which you will see under the microscope. This is microscopic representation, the hematoxylin and eosine stained slide, which is showing you this tictorial membrane, that is a glycoprotein coat. This is the area of stria vascularis here, and moving towards that is this nucleus indicating this flask like inner hair cells, and embedded and supported through that inner phalangeal cells. These are the inner and outer pillar cells. In between this is tunnel of Corti. Then this is a set of rows of the outer pillar cells supported these cells which are showing here. These are the outer phalangeal cells, and there this one is the stereocilias towards the tictorial membrane, and then this one is the outer tunnel of Corti between the outer phalangeal cells, and these are the cells of Hansen's. Now these cells of Hansen's, which are the columnar to cuboidal cells making up the outer and inner border cells. What is this? These are indicating now the areas of the basilar membrane towards the scala tympani. These nuclei are the areas towards the scala tympani, which is the sort of squamous epithelium towards scala tympani. So this is the basilar membrane, you can appreciate easily. And what are these areas are showing you the Claudius and Bocher cells. So you can see here, and this is the area indicating now the spiral ganglion, the nerve cells, the spiral ganglions, these are here. So very interesting H and E stained slide which you will see under the microscope. But actually in the microscope the slide will show you all the three compartments. In that slide you are going to have all the three compartments which will indicate the slide of cochlea. So we have that slide of cochlea and we'll show you definitely, and you have to draw the histological slide basically of that of organ of Corti. So in histology Dr. Romana will guide you. So again, all the representation which I have already told you, indicating